Yes, team, welcome back to another episode of the High Performance Coach podcast. We have just spent the last 7 days in Sri Lanka, which has been incredible. The people, the experience, the food, and just shaking up the snow globe, being in a different environment, in a different place, can be so good for the soul. Me and Leanne have always said, whenever we walk the dog and we have our most deepest and meaningful conversations, because it's usually the only time of the day that we're not working with phones and all those good things, and I feel as though that you get into such a flow when you're just out getting some steps in, is if we were to die tomorrow, what would be the one regret that we'd have? And the only thing that ever comes up is we wish that we'd traveled more. Now, don't get me wrong, we've been incredibly fortunate to have moved from Scotland to Portugal. We've been to some amazing places, but there's been so much of the world that we haven't seen, we haven't explored, we haven't adventured to. Asia was one of those places, Sri Lanka was one of those places. So to be able to come away in January and have some space and some time just to experience a different way has been so good. And it does just give you a completely different perspective in terms of how you view where you are, the world, success, what you want, next steps. It allows you just to look at things for a slightly different lens. So if you haven't been to Sri Lanka, I'd highly recommend it. It's been absolutely incredible. We've got 24 hours left here before we head to Colombo and then fly home. And on this key card, we checked into this hotel yesterday. It says traveling. It leaves you speechless, then turns you into a storyteller. And I speak about being about it. We speak about being able to tell better stories within your marketing, within your content, and being more interesting, not just sitting behind a laptop 24 hours of the day, going to the gym, and that's all that you do. The way in which you can now convey, the way in which you can now capture, and the way in which you can communicate stories is going to be the way that you can capture hearts and minds, and you can bring more of the right types of people towards you, and you can build even more connection based upon a shared sense of value. So the more stories you can have based upon the experiences that you can create, without a shadow of a doubt, the greater the opportunity, the greater the depth, and the greater degree of immersion and relationship that you can build along the way. So let's get stuck into today. How to go from 5 to 10K. First thing we've got to be able to consider is what's your current biggest limiting factor. Whenever we think about business, you can grow capacity or create capacity. Growing capacity is marketing, lead generation, client acquisition, etc. Creating capacity is systems, operations, developments, improvements, ultimately creating more space for you to be able to now grow into. Growing capacity is how can I basically generate and bring in new business. When you get to $5,000 plus per month, we've got to look at what's usually the biggest limiting factor. And typically it's actually both. But the biggest piece of the puzzle is usually the creating capacity, because you're busy as fuck. You're doing absolutely everything. You're now working with typically anywhere from kind of 20 to 35, maybe 40 clients, depending upon your price point. You're now stuck so much in delivery. You feel as though you're being pulled from pillar to post. You know that you want to be able to grow, but it feels heavy, like an uphill battle, and you're going to have to compromise and sacrifice even more. So I'm going to break down in this episode, obviously, what are typically the limiting factors, things you need to consider: marketing, lead generation, delivery, systems. We're then going to look at like money and emotional management, and then key skills that you now need to be able to develop. So whenever we're looking at the next level, before you think about more, we need to look at what are the holes, what are the gaps, and what's the limitation just now. And I'm going to explore a few things. Number one, you're usually busy and you're doing everything. Number two, you need to get clarity around actually what it is that you now want. Whenever you go from 0 to 5, you're operating from a place of, well, you're coming from nothing, it's a hobby, it's a passion, to now being able to build it into something. Your goal is, can I actually get some clients? Can I get people to pay me? Can I get some great results? Can I build a level of authority in the marketplace? And can I build a level of consistency and stability for this to now be able to become a thing? Once you get to 5K per month, typically a lot of your basic needs in terms of like revenue to be able to now live life has been met. You've been able to prove to yourself that you can actually now build and create a thing. And it's then understanding what's now driving you and what's now pulling you forwards. More is not necessarily better. Better is better. Having clarity around what you want is better. And being able to get completely clear around actually what are you growing for? What are the next steps that you want to be able to make? Which is going to drive the decisions, the urgency, the consequences, the sacrifices, and the rewards that are going to be at the end of that, most importantly. Otherwise, it can be so easy just to be comfortably uncomfortable because you're playing not to lose and you're protecting what you have instead of allowing yourself to get really clear around what it actually is that you now want to be able to step into. So I think it's really important that we get clear around, of course, income and revenue targets, obviously experience and lifestyle goals, along with obviously the impact that you want to be able to have with your clients and how you want to be able to live and how you want to be able to do business. And the reason I say this is because this 10K a month is just this number that's just been created in the fitness industry. There's just this glorified 5-figure digit that sounds great, but what's the reality? because I think so many people have this expectation of that's now where I need to be, but you need to understand your financial position. You need to understand how you want to do how you want to do business, how you want to live, and what that now looks like. Because I say to so many coaches, before you think about getting to 10K, you need to actually get to 7.5, which is the £90,000 per year mark over a 12-month rolling basis. And if you're in the UK, you've then got to go over the VAT threshold, which means that you're going to have a greater degree of tax liability. And then you've got to look at, okay, well, what's now the stretch and what's the next level that I need to get to in order for me to now be able to have the same level of profitability as I would do at the 7.5K? And what am I now willing and not willing to be able to go and do? So I always look at it through this lens of you go bigger business, and then you focus on better business, which is creating capacity, improving the way in which you're delivering, improving your systems, creating more space. And then it's deciding, right, okay, what do I now want? Do I want to then be able to step into this next phase and surpass the VAT threshold and move into that next level? And I speak to some coaches and they're like, yep, 100%, that's what I want. That's the vision. I value progress. I want to be able to grow. I want to be able to now increase my revenue targets. I want to grow this company. And it's like, right, okay, that's the intentionality. Other people are actually like, do you know what? I'm really happy at 5, 6, 7 grand. Some people are happy at 2, 3, 4 grand. Like, there's no right or wrong. And there shouldn't be like, this is your map of success and this is where you should be. It's actually starting to look at actually how much revenue do I now want to be able to make based upon how I want to do things and how I want to be able to live. So I'd always be looking at that 7.5K as like your first landmark, and then being able to recalibrate and understand what the next steps are. I know for me, I sat below the VAT threshold for far too long because it was fear, scarcity. I was at a point where I didn't really know anybody else in the online game or even in the business world, in all honesty. And there was this greater degree of like pressure, heaviness, responsibility. I was already doing so much. I was coaching so many clients, and I felt as though like the thought process of now adding another X amount of clients to my business was just going to completely bury me, when I felt as though that I was already doing so much already and my lifestyle was already being compromised, and I felt as though that I didn't have as much space as I would have liked to. And then it was about understanding, well, what are the moves that I need to make? What do I need to shift? What do I need to change? What do I need to alter? What do I need to evolve? And there's obviously a whole host of different aspects, which I'm going to talk about today, that allow me then to do that. So I think not just having this like blinkered thinking to I need to get to 10K a month, being able to get clear over what are the moves, how am I staying there? How do I want to get there? And what do I want the business to now look like in alignment with my lifestyle, I think is huge. Another 2 pieces that I want to be able to communicate on with regards to understanding what are the limiting factors. Number one, I see so many coaches that get to like 5, 6, 7 grand a month and then actually end up being quite unfulfilled with their business. They're still using and speaking to the same people that they were, and it doesn't necessarily align to them anymore. They've grown, they've evolved, and they have a new sense of passion, values, and things they want to be able to step into and things they want to be able to talk about. But there's this fear of stepping away from that. And I've spoken about this in previous episodes with respect to like regeneration phases and giving yourself time to recalibrate and realign. But that's scary. It brings so much uncertainty, because going from nothing to where you are right now, well, there's evidence, there's data, and it gives you safety. So being able to have the confidence to get the goalpost to stop moving for 5 seconds, recalibrate, realign, destroy parts of you, let go and step into a new and recreate yourself can be one of the hardest things you can do. And then what I see is that coaches are going, well, it's just the next revenue month, the next revenue month. How do I get to the next revenue like goal target? And they're just then playing a game of how do I make money go up in comparison to actually how do I want this business to feel? And that's when you end up then just chasing arbitrary numbers that don't make you feel any different. And you end up building somebody else's map of success rather than now being able to create your own. So we have to now look at the fulfillment piece, because when shit gets tough, when it gets challenging, when you've got to make big decisions, that's going to be the urgency, the consequence, and the very, very motivating factor that's going to be driving you forwards. It's going to drive the decisions that you need to be able to pull the trigger on that have been holding you back. And finally, I've touched upon this, but the likelihood is you're now full. You're doubling down and spending so much time now coaching, and you're spending so much time in delivery that your marketing and lead generation is now being put on the back foot. It's reactive. You're winging it. It just feels as though it's an afterthought. And what typically ends up happening is you now get to a point where you stop doing the world-class basics that helped you obviously onboard the clients initially. And you now get to a point where you get clients, you get comfortable, clients then leave, and then you go, oh shit, I'm on the back burner. I need to now do a launch. I need to do this. I need to build this campaign. I need to double down on X, Y, and Z. And you end up being reactive to try and get clients on board. It's this big rush, this big panic. You get clients on board. You go, that's me. I'm okay again. And then you just go back into that same revolving cycle instead of evolving, which is why when we get to this 5, 6, 7, 10 and north of that, we have to be able to look at front-facing plan, strategy, how much time you're spending in delivery, how much time you're now spending in marketing, lead generation, and growing the company, and the split and the divide that needs to be there. But first and foremost, the biggest piece that absolutely needs to be considered is the creating capacity, because right now, if you're between that number, it's likely that things feel heavy, and taking on more clients now just feels as though it's more of an uphill battle. I'm going to walk and talk you through the systems that you need to have in place that will now free you up, and the shift in thinking that's now going to massively help you, which will allow you to grow while still feeling good, whilst being able to deliver a great service, if anything, deliver a better service and get even better results for your clients and have an even greater impact. So let's explore and unpack price point and model. When you're between 0 to 5K per month, your first goal is, how do I get some clients on board? How do I build my competence and my confidence actually within coaching? How can I get better quality results? And how can I start to gradually increase my price point as my demand goes up and as I start to build even more of an authority in the marketplace? When you get to 5 to 10K per month, whilst those foundations and principles are still very much going to be the same, you've got to look at what are going to be the main levers that I can now pull that will allow me to continue to grow and continue to ascend my revenue. You have, I can increase my current price point for new customers and also for existing customers. I can work with more clients. We can look at how can you start to handle and facilitate a higher number of people inside your business. And number 3, we can look at diversifying your products, your program, your offers, and just allowing you to be able to now work with differing people at different levels based upon where they are at this present moment in time. Think about that model like economy, business class, and first class on a plane. So you have to get clear over what is the route that I want to go down. And you might not just solely do one. It might be a combination of the two, but you've got to be able to look at which is going to be the route that's going to be most congruent to me, how I want to do things, and how I want my business to look moving forwards. We have coaches across the board doing different things. We have some people that are operating in the high ticket space that are working with a small number of one-to-one clients. We have people operating in like the one-to-many, more group-based model. We have people who are operating in a place where they are working with a small number of one-to-one high ticket clients, but then they're now doing challenges and group programs and different releases over the course of the year. We also have people who are releasing courses, etc. So it's about being able to look at the pieces of the puzzle and understand what's going to be best for you in alignment with where you want to go and how many clients you actually now want to work with based upon where you are currently. And in order for you to be able to gain clarity, you actually need to work out what is your average customer price point at this present moment in time. Because when you're at 0 to 5, the likelihood is that your price point was low to get some customers on board. And as your demand, your authority, your results got better, your price point then started to gradually grow. You're now in a position where, although your new price point might be £250 per month, your first initial paying customer might be at £120 per month, and you'll have everybody in between. So we actually need to work out right now, where are you on average based upon the amount of clients you're working with, the amount of revenue that you're generating. So you need to look at what is my average monthly revenue. You then need to divide that by the number of clients that you have, which will give you average customer price point. And then we need to look at how many clients do I want to work with, how much revenue do I want to generate, and then what's the average price point there moving forwards that will give you clarity around what are the moves that I now need to be able to make. Okay, third factor, marketing and lead generation. When you get to 5K plus, like I said, often your marketing and lead generation becomes an afterthought. It just gets something that it goes on the back burner. But here's the biggest challenge. The moment that you stop marketing, the moment that you shorten the runway, and then you put yourself in a position, in a place, is like everything's okay until it's not. AKA everything's good until you lose clients, and then you start to go backwards, and then you're like, shit, I need to acquire new clients. And then you're in this place of urgency. The coach or the customer that basically needs the sale the most is the one that's typically now going to lose, which is where we need to look at how much time, effort, and energy you placing in a front-facing structure that's now giving you the platform to be able to continue to double down on your marketing, lead generation, and sales efforts, even if you now do not need clients, because that helps you at least build a bigger runway and puts you in an even greater position in a place of abundance. So you're not optimizing for today, you're optimizing for the weeks, the months, and the years to come. And being able to continually put those deposits into the account, which are going to be necessary and needed. So within this, what we have to make sure is that you actually have a clear structure and a clear plan. When you start at 0 to 5, typically the majority of your clients are going to come through word of mouth. They're going to come through people that you already know. They're going to come through basically people who are potentially already been watching you or following you for a little while. It's usually going to be people in your closer proximity and that kind of closer knit community, typically. Once you start to then build and grow, and as you start to work with those clients, typically, if you do a good job, your referrals should continue to build, your reputation should continue to build. These clients are going to want to tell other people about you, and you're going to continue to retain these individuals. But then we also need to start adding and stacking another layer, because you started to work through that warmer audience. So your marketing and lead generation actually becomes more integral. It needs more time, it needs more energy, it needs more focus, and it needs even more kind of potency and even more planning. So within your marketing and lead generation, we have to now be to look at what's your campaign target. So going into the month of February, where are your customers? What are they currently struggling? What are they thinking about? What are they bumping up against? What do they now need? What can you now do that's going to allow you to connect and convey your message and share content that's now going to land, it's going to hit, it's going to resonate, and they're going to be going, shit, that's me. Instead of just going into the month of February and just going, well, I need to create a load of content, or this is what every other coach is now doing. So you should be mapping out the pulse on your market. Where are they in January, February, March, April, May, June, July? What are the typical trends and patterns? And then being able to get clear over what does the content marketing now look like? What are the pain points? What are the stories, and what's the proof that you now need to be able to share that's going to allow you to connect you to these people that are going to help you further develop a greater sense of relationship, and for them to be able to have aha moments that makes them feel safe, that makes them feel connected, and it's going to ultimately pull them closer towards you and give them a reason for them to be able to want to continue to follow you. So we have to then look at campaign target. What's the goal for this month? What are you looking to do? What are you selling in private? What are you selling in public? What is your outcome and what is your objective going into this month? Content marketing. What are you doing week to week to week to week to week? What is the goal? What is the outcome? And what's going to be like the intentionality behind it? So example, week 1 in the month of February could literally be awareness-based content. Week 2 could be consideration-based content. Week 3 could be proof, objection-based content. Week 4 could be direct kind of call to action based content, direct response. There's different ways in which you can now structure that. And then within your content, you've then got, like, again, a basic flow that I typically run is like on Monday, it's a value-based content. Tuesday is like a content-based, connection-based piece of content. Proof-based, objection-based, life and fun-based. So then you're covering every single angle based upon the objective that you're trying to accomplish and you're trying to achieve for that week. So it just means that you have a structure for you then to be able to follow. And also from a planning perspective, it can be really easy then to write 4 pieces of content, 4 value pieces of content, 4 objection pieces of content, 4 connection pieces of content, 4 proof pieces of content. And you could then literally go, right, okay, I'm going to write week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, Monday. These are going to be value-based pieces of content based upon what the outcome is. And then obviously you can do the same. That now means that you've got clarity around what it is that you're now trying to aim for, the areas that you're now trying to cover, and there's a structure and there's a plan. Off the back of that, we've then got to look at what's going to be the more immersive based content that's going to get people to put their hand in the air. I spoke about this in the previous episode. Client acquisition is a bit like dating. First impressions count. That's your content marketing. You've then got dates, and you've got different forms of dates. You've got let's go for a coffee, let's go for a walk, and then you've also got let's go for dinner and let's go away for the weekend. You've got to be able to have the blend of the both. That's going to now be your lead magnet. So let's go for a coffee, let's go for a walk. It's going to be your volume-based lead magnets. That could be like cheat sheets, guides, playbooks, simple things that they can now download that doesn't take a lot of effort, doesn't take a lot of energy, and it doesn't really take a lot of their time. You've then got value-based lead magnets, which are then going to be things like tests, masterclasses, mini-series, things that are going to be a little bit more immersive. We want to be able to have a blend of the two. And then most importantly, we want to make sure that it's specific to the content marketing and also the campaign target that you're now looking to accomplish and achieve. Your lead magnets are not how do I get clients to sign up with me? It's being able to give them a solution to a problem that they haven't been able to solve. It's helping them actually now get further into your world. It's an opportunity for you to be able to capture data, and it's also an opportunity for you to be able to start a conversation. And it's an opportunity for you to be able to see what your market really, really now want and value. So you can then double down on even more of that if you're aware around, like, we're getting a lot of people put their hand in the air for this one particular thing. If you've been doing lead magnets and you're like, well, they're not really working, I don't really get that much traction, there's a couple of factors to consider. Number 1, they're just shit and they're actually not good enough. That's just reality. Number 2, you haven't told enough people about them. Or number 3, you've got a great lead magnet, you've been telling people, but the messaging isn't necessarily there. It's not necessarily aligned. And we then need to be able to improve the potency and the level of intentionality around it. And a perfect example, I spoke to somebody yesterday as we were traveling down, and they sent me over all of their lead magnets. And it was like, how to drop your first 5 kilos, how to eat clean, how to track your calories. And it's like every other coach is now doing that. What's your USP? How do you take people from problem to promise? What are the barriers that they're bumping up against? And what can you now do that will provide them a solution to a problem that they haven't now considered, thought about, or they haven't actioned? that's now going to make them go, I never thought about that, or that's what I want, giving them something that they currently don't have access to, they're not, or they haven't been able to accomplish and achieve. So example was, well, how do we then shift that from how to drop your first 5 kilos or how to drop body fat guide to how you can, the exact system that I use that helps people eat more, train less, and never feel like they're on a diet, and help them build a body or physique that now, you know, they love, they're proud of transformation of their dreams, whatever that's now going to look like. I butchered that slightly, but you get my drift in terms of how can you create something that's now going to be compelling that makes them go, I've never thought about that, or I didn't know you could do that. That's then going to make them want to put their hand in the air to be able to go and access, and then you can show them the exact system that you now use, which helps them stay fuller for longer, helps them train less than what they are currently, and helps them feel like they're never on a diet, which is then going to give them a shift in thinking, a new way and a new opportunity, which is then going to make them feel even more compelled to want to be curious about how they can work with you, or alternatively, well, you're helping them change for the better, which is what we want. So your lead magnets need to then be seeped into your content marketing. Then need to be seeped obviously into your stories. And then you've got twofold. You can either just literally send over unlisted links or Google Drives, etc., or you put that behind an email capture, which is something you should absolutely do. But I do believe in having a blend of both, because always having to get people to opt in and give people your details, whilst if it's valuable enough, people will. I also believe that there's some power of like, I've just put together this thing, tap the sticker, you send them over something that's kind of like raw. It's not necessarily an email capture, and then you can just start a conversation as well, really, really simply and really, really easily. So being able to have lead magnets you can then rotate, that you can then use, that are starting conversations, taking people into your world even further, allowing them to experience what you do, taking them from awareness into that level of immersion and into that level of value is going to be absolutely integral, but it's going to be the quality of those that are going to make a big difference. We then have to be able to look at your connections, your networks, being able to create longer form content. 2025 in business is the year of goodwill. It's the year of depth. It's a year of immersion. It's a year of being able to give people the safety and certainty to be able to take the next step. The amount of people that message me in my inbox that are like previous negative experiences with business coaches, so skeptical, spent so much money, had their fingers burnt. It's crazy. And I empathize and I can appreciate exactly where they're coming from. But important thing to now be able to note is that your clients are probably feeling exactly the same. They're now in a position where they've had so many negative experiences. They've failed so many times before. So you can promise in the world and you can give them all these kind of like fancy things, but how much trust you can build with them, how much goodwill you can create is ultimately going to be the thing that makes the difference. So how far can somebody go into your world without them even working with you? How many ways can they now experience you? So long form content, podcast, YouTube, whatever it's now going to be, being able to allow yourself to have a platform where people can spend time consuming your stuff is going to be key. Not only that, who has access to your people? If you're now in a position, in a place where you're working with 20, 30, 40 clients, you've been able to get great results, you understand your market, you understand your message, and you are now becoming a specialist within that area, who has access to your people that you can start to go and network with, you can go and collaborate with, you can get into rooms, you can get to events, that you can start to build this partnership. That's going to be really where so much of your success is to be had. That's also a really easy way to become a go-to. We've got a client just now who's operating in the property space. He's just literally flown to a property event in the UK to now be able to just be in the room. And off the back of that, he was able to book an abundance of calls, sold some clients, and he's now also been asked to share inside of that kind of Facebook community group and be the specialist with obviously the body shape, health and performance stuff. That is not sexy. It required him to get on a plane. It required him to pay cash to get into the venue. And it required a lot of his time and a lot of his effort. But the ROI on that is going to be monumental. Maybe not today, but in 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Then if you've got lead magnets, your content marketing, your campaign targets are right, these people are going to go from offline to online, watch what you do, end up in your world. And that's going to be, again, another opportunity for them to be able to be more immersed with you. So where and who has your audience? How can you connect with them? And then how are you becoming somebody that's of value? In order for you to be able to get value, you have to be able to give value. So what avenues can you now explore, and how can you start to create more depth and more immersion within what it is that you currently do? The email marketing piece obviously comes off the back of the lead magnets and being able to now capture data, which again is key. And then finally within this, we've got the connections in the chat. Your goal is not to send more messages. Your goal is not to be able to outbound and outreach the world and send loads of spam. Your goal is, again, being able to just build that level of nurture. No different from the dating analogy that I use. content marketing front facing. You've then got your lead magnets, which is obviously the dates. And you've then got the small talk in between, the messaging back and forth, which is literally just your chats and just being able to develop and further gain a greater sense of relationship with said individual and being able to just now go on a journey. That's all that you're looking to do. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. We were traveling a couple of days ago and I was sending some messages to some people. And this individual had messaged me back with a couple of challenges they were currently experiencing. And I just sent them a 2.5-minute voice note on, this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm noticing. Based upon what you've told me, here are some key considerations. Here's some things that I would now look at. And here's a couple of questions that I would now ask yourself when I put pen to paper on. This person, I shared this in my stories, that messaged me back saying, mate, I'm blown away by this response. I've worked with loads of business mentors in the past. I've paid people £1,000 per month. And in that 2.5-minute voice note, you've given me more value and more clarity than all of those combined. Now, I'm not trying to sign that client up. Wasn't trying to say, let's get onto a call. I wasn't trying to rush the relationship. It was just trying to make them feel listened to, heard, understood. What are the barriers? What are the challenges? And how can I bridge that gap and offer them a different perspective that's going to help them progress and grow and move forwards and win? And then if something good comes of that later down the line, or they want to tell other people about me, then brilliant, fantastic. But if I know that I'm paying it forward and I'm leaving somebody in a better place than what I found them, then I know that that's only going to be positive opportunities and doors that will open, even if I now can't see it yet. And it also makes me feel good as well. So your goal is to now be able to give people that time, that space, that connection. Not what's your biggest problem right now and how can I help you? It's actually being able to develop and forge stronger relationships and focus on quality over quantity, most importantly. That's the game that you're now looking to play. And like final note that I've made here is like, your audience has likely already experienced so many coaches messaging them. They have already experienced different programs before and they're already fed up. It's not that hard to be better than the majority. It just requires more intention, more effort, and you being able to go the extra mile and being able to do the little bits that are now going to make the difference. And that's going to be the thing that allows them to see you in a slightly different light. I had a great conversation with one of our coaches a little while ago, and they basically said, Joe, I've been able to get a corporate speaking gig that this person was now going to be paying them a large sum of money because I sent them a voice note on LinkedIn and I was just a normal human being and we had a normal conversation. And this person basically said, like, you're the first person that I've had a normal conversation with. It sounds as though that, you know, like you've done your homework and you're really interested and I like you. So I'd love for you to be able to come into our company and do a talk, just from literally being different to every other conversation that person had. So that's the game that we're now looking to play. I heard a great quote. It was actually on an email that I read the other day, which basically says, high performers often do the complete polar opposite to what everybody else is now doing. And I don't think there's a truer word that could be spoken. It just takes that extra time to be able to now go that extra mile. But only can you do all of this stuff because you're now probably thinking, shit, Joe, that's a lot of work. And that's a full-time job in itself. And you think about big companies. They have a marketing department. They have a sales department. They have R&D department, a research and design department. They have a client success or, a customer delivery department. They have a finance department. Like, they have different departments and they have roles that are just specific, just within one avenue. Whereas you're now somebody who's probably now doing the marketing, the lead generation, the sales. You're now doing the onboarding. You're now doing the delivery. You're doing the program. You're doing the developments. You're doing the operations. You're doing the systems. You're doing the finance. You're also then doing the strategy and the vision of how am I moving this company forwards. You're playing all these different roles and responsibilities, which is why the biggest barrier that when you get to 5, 6, 7 grand per month, that's going to stop you from growing and moving forwards is going to be your delivery, your operations, and your systems. It's going to be the creating capacity. You can take on more clients. You can do more. You can sign up more people. But if you're then compromising and sacrificing yourself, it feels heavy. As much as you want to grow, you will default and you will sabotage and you will self-handicap yourself because the thought of that is now going to basically be like, whoa, I'm already stretched and I'm already doing so much. I'm not sure how much more I can take on, even though that's what you know that you want to be able to do. So this is where operation systems and how you turn yourself into a business owner with how you're spending your time, your energy, and how you're prioritizing and planning is going to be absolutely essential. You want to be spending 50, 60% time coaching and delivery, 40, 50% time in marketing and lead generation, growing and improving the quality of obviously what it is that you're now creating and being able to move forwards. And I speak to so many people like, I'd love to be able to do that, but I'm so heavy in delivery right now. I see this so often, which is coaches then just stretch their delivery over the course of the week. Their check-ins take longer than they should do. Their programming, it takes way longer than it should do. They end up procrastinating. It ends up taking them so much longer than necessary. They haven't got the frameworks, the strategies. They're updating programs even when they're not necessary, just to show their clients that they're of value. And then they end up just spending so much time in their comms and in their WhatsApp and they just end up like just full. They're just heavy in coaching, but they're not able to really grow. And the first thing that I always say is that we need to challenge you in terms of your personal systems and your business systems, how you're doing things. You don't necessarily need a ton more automations and new systems that you need to then add a new resource and stuff like that. You actually need better personal systems, and you need more urgency, and you need more intentionality around the quality of the work that you're doing, and realizing, how am I currently delivering my program, my check-in process? Is half the stuff that I'm delivering even necessary or needed, or am I actually just now over delivering to make them feel as though that I'm doing something and I'm now worth the cash they're paying for? Programming, have you got framework, strategy, structures? Is it now periodized? Is it now mapped out so you now know the tweaks and the changes that you need to be able to make? And this is exactly what we do inside our business program. Like, Dan works with every single one of our coaches, whether that's now in person or online. And we look at actually, how can we improve the efficiency, the effectiveness of how you're delivering your current programming, so it's just not like you're spending your life now basically updating programming, doing check-ins or responding to comms, and then that gets stretched over the week. You then don't have any space or any time, and then you're just spending the time that you then do have reacting to trying to create some marketing material that's going to hopefully help you move forward. So we want to look at, actually, do you know what? What would it take for you to now be able to get all of your check-ins and all your communication and your big stuff now done on a Monday? What would it take for you to be able to get all of your programming updates now done within one day? What would it now take for you to be able to onboard and do your new client onboarding within X period of time? So how can you start to spend like 50% of your week now in delivery, 50% of your week on growing and pulling the company forward? Otherwise, you just end up then basically feeling heavy, stuck, and reactive, and not being able to move forward. But then you're afraid because you feel as though that you're actually delivering a less of a quality of a service. Your service and your quality is not based upon how much time you spend. It's dependent upon the level of results, the speed, the accessibility, the outcome, the ease, the enjoyment, the connection, the belonging. People don't want more stuff. They want potency, and they want to be able to get from problem to promise in an easier, more enjoyable, or a faster way, or a smoother way to what they are doing right now. They do not want, and they do not need a 5 to 10 minute Loom video, and they do not need you to be updating programming, and they also do not need you to be peppering them with WhatsApps every single week. You need to be able to create the right structure for them and have the right frames in your communication to be able to now deliver with intentionality, and as a byproduct, get better results, because you've then got more energy and more time to be able to think and bring even more to how you want to be able to do things, which is going to be absolutely huge. So how can you restructure how you're planning your weeks, planning your days, and where you're spending your time and energy? You've then got your business systems in terms of, again, the check-ins, the programming updates, your onboarding, and how can we refine that? Then you've got space to be able to then double down on actually marketing, lead generation. And then within this, we've got to get clear over, what do you need to delegate? What do you need to do? Or what do you need to defer? And a really easy task for you to be able to do is go, right, okay, well, 2 tasks. Number 1, make a time audit. Where are you spending so much of your time? Where do you feel as though you're spending the majority of your time at this present moment? Is it needed? Is it necessary? Number 2, write down all the things that you love doing. Write down all the things that you hate doing. And next to it, you're going to write do, defer, delegate. Because once you get to a point of 5, 6, 7 grand per month, you're now in a position that if you've been able to have the level of financial discipline, money and emotional management, you should now have some cash reserves, which then will allow you to be able to use that additional profit to be able to free yourself up and buy yourself back more time, so you can then spend more time either A, enjoying yourself and enjoying your lifestyle, or B, spend then more time actually doubling down on the activities that now fulfill you, align to you, that give you the greatest sense of enjoyment, and also then opportunity in terms of revenue. Spending time doubling down on your money-making activities. That isn't just necessarily client acquisition. That could also be improving development, operations, and obviously how you deliver it inside of your program to make the experience even greater. So we need to then be able to start to look at, how do you start to move the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle to then be able to do that. That might also then coincide with a price increase or a change in delivery model. There's different things for us to now be able to consider. But it's not just about, how do I continue to do more, work more, because otherwise you're just going to end up burnt out, unfulfilled, stuck, and building a business you end up hating and resenting. And you feel as though that getting more money and getting more clients is going to make you feel a certain way, and it now really doesn't. There has to be changes that need to be made. Otherwise, you can't break past that next phase and step into that next level. And you can't access, if you're looking to then go into 6, 7 figures, you then don't have the platform to be able to then do that. So we have to look at, what are the skills that you need to develop? What are the strategies that we then need to have in place around the marketing lead generation? And then what are the basic personal and business systems that we need to improve, that we need to refine, which usually is your own personal time management, that will enhance the amount of time that you now have to be able to then really spend more time in actually moving things in the right direction. Point number 5, money and emotional management. One of the biggest factors that stops so many coaches at this level is they end up playing not to lose. Like I spoke about earlier, they go from nothing to something, and then they end up basically protecting. They're comfortably uncomfortable, and they now fear actually going backwards because they've had to do so much and graft so much and work so hard to be able to get to where they are right now, that it feels as though that actually having to change direction, shift how they're currently behaving, and change their approach goes against what's now giving them actually safety and stability. Our brains are not wired for transformation. They're not wired for growth. They're not wired for evolution. They're wired for safety, security, survival, reproduction, and then status. So you having to change how you're doing things makes you feel incredibly uncomfortable. But that's the work that needs to be done if you want to be able to access this next phase that allows you then to be on the front foot, that allows you to evolve, that allows you to play to win. And I spoke about this previously. Like, I sat below the VAT threshold for so long. Why? Because I was revolving. Why? Because my thinking was limited. Why? Because I didn't see a journey past having just to work more hours, compromise and bury myself into the ground and take on more clients to be able to now get to the next level. And that was the thing that kept me stuck. And without now knowing the way in which I behave was limiting me, even though I was telling myself that I wanted to grow, even though I was telling myself and writing down, this is where I want to be, and this is the life that I want to have, and these are the things that I want to create, etc. I was just stopping myself because I was so afraid and so petrified of having to let go of what's now made me feel safe. So you're playing not to lose or you're playing to win. So the question to ask yourself is, if I keep behaving the way in which I'm currently behaving, do I get to where I want to go? If I keep using the strategy that I'm currently using, do I now build the business not only from a revenue perspective, but now aligned to how I want to be able to live, how I want to be able to do things, the impact that I now want to be able to have, and the freedom that I want to be able to create? If the answer is no, something needs to change. You can stay exactly where you are, but you will just continue to decay without you even now knowing. And even if you decide that I don't want to increase my revenue, still being able to improve your efficiency, being able to build a better business that gives you more freedom, gives you more time, gives you more energy, is only going to be a win-win-win across the board. So this is the level where people end up over-delivering. They end up spending just time just being busy for the sake of being busy. And they know that there's moves that they need to make, but they're not sure what those moves are now going to look like because it's different to what you've been doing previously, and they already feel stuck because they already feel as though they're doing so much anyway. So you being able to look at yourself first and foremost is going to be the biggest piece that we need to look at if you want to be able to stretch and surpass, not only to get to the next level, but also then to be able to stay there as well, because that requires two completely different systems. Penultimate piece, money and emotional management. As you grow, you generate more revenue. The more revenue you now generate, the more considerations you now need to be able to make around tax liabilities. You've now also got to be able to consider potential increased overhead and expenses, because you're now starting to delegate and you're now starting to bring people in, or you're starting to build systems that are now going to free you up, that gives you more time. And there's also an aspect and element around your own personal lifestyle and the discipline with financial and money management that you still need to continue to have. It's not just make money, spend money, make money, spend money. It's about being able to have the right pots, the right structure, and being able to have the right data tracking that you now know every single week. What's our revenue? What have been our expenses? How many clients have joined? How many clients have left? How many results have we now been able to get? And being able to then track and now look at what the data is telling you about the health of your business right now, and then you being able to make moves and set up systems that are now going to protect you from an economic perspective. Because if you do go over the VAT threshold, that's now obviously a tax liability every single quarter. If you're now a limited company, you've now got corporation tax to now to consider. You've also got personal tax you've also got to take into account. So this is where we need to have this level of discipline, and then also understanding, like, what's the next move that we need to make. I reached a certain point in my business, which was around 500,000. I got to a level, it's like, right, actually, do you know what? If I now want to be able to really go to the next point, I'm going to need to reinvest so heavily back into my company to now be able to get to the next point. I then had to use an element of cash reserves. And then obviously we had a monthly recurring business that was still allowing us to make profit every single month that I then reinvested. I took a hit on profit for 8 to 12 months for us then to be able to get to the next phase and the next level, because I realized that going above and beyond where we were, I wasn't able to do that. And I wasn't able to access those next levels without me now being able to reinvest back into the company. Now, luckily, I had a great accountant, great financial advisor, and I've been able to build systems that from foundations because of great people around me that have given me the structure. If I hadn't had that, and I didn't know where my money was, and I didn't know where we were from a business perspective, I would have been even more uncertain around the moves that I was making. And then also when you're making those types of investments back into the business, that's another 2p in the machine that you just now backing yourself and trusting yourself even more so. So how you're structuring things and how you're managing your money and how you're understanding obviously your current lifestyle expenses are also now going to be absolutely essential, because it's just not more cash I can spend more. It's understanding, what do I need to live, love later life? What's going to be my tax liability? How much cash do I want to redeploy back into the company? Who do I now need to be able to help me get to that next level, most importantly? So final point, I spoke about the key skills you need to develop at 0 to 5. Those skills are still going to be there. They're still going to be the foundation. They're still going to be absolutely essential. You just need to get better at those skills. And there are always going to be elements you need to be working on. But the more exposure, the more experience you have, the better you're going to become. When you get to 5K plus, the first thing you need to work on is time management and your own planning, is your own personal effectiveness, your own personal efficiency, and being able to remove yourself from being so heavy and bloated and like buckaroo to actually creating even more streamlined structure in terms of your delivery, where you're spending your time, effort, and energy. What are your money-making activities? And what do you now need to delegate, defer, and do? And then what are the personal and business systems that we now need to be able to have in place? It's likely you don't need a whole host more in terms of business systems. Yeah, there's probably some automations. There's a refinement of onboarding. There's probably an upgrade of CRM. There's elements around, obviously, your marketing and lead generation that needs systems and structure and planning, so that you're able to not just take one piece of content and then think, I need to create lots of others across email, podcasts, etc. Perfect example. This is now a podcast. This is now going to be a carousel on Instagram. It's then going to be a reel on Instagram. We're then also going to use that across on LinkedIn. We're then going to send this out as an email as well. And we can also turn this into a lead magnet, where we can take what I've now spoken about and what I put pen to paper on, add a little bit more context, and I could give that away as a playbook. So there's one piece of content that we're now repurposing into 5 or 6 different pieces of content that are now going to be leveraged across a whole list of different platforms. So being able to just have that structure means that you can leverage and you can be more effective, rather than thinking I'm constantly having to do more and having to constantly create new. Third thing, marketing lead generation. Recognizing that you now need the next level and the next phase of depth, the next level of immersion. You need the next level of expansion in terms of how far can people now go into your world, how many different ways can people experience what you do, and also having clarity around actually your message, because I suspect it's now going to be different to what it was, and we need to improve and we need to refine that. Otherwise people switch off to it and it may not be as potent as it was previously, and it might not be as effective. So we need to continue to refine your offer, refine your messaging, and it's the quality within that that's going to be absolutely essential. And then final piece, and again ties into the time management and the planning element, but it's actually adaptability. When you get to 5, 6, 7, 8 and north of that, it's actually being adaptable. It's being open to letting go. It's being open to change. It's being open to being more effective, learning new skills, integrating better systems, and being adaptable and open to actually what's the next phase that I need to step into. Every single new level means a new version of you. There's things you have to let go of. There's things you need to step into. And there's going to be a time delay that's going to be in place from when you take the action to when you see the results and you see the rewards. The adaptability that you now have as a business owner that shifts you from coach who runs a business to now business owner that sells coaching is going to be integral. You're also potentially going to be starting to look at having some low-level team across admin, maybe chat person, etc., content creator, etc. That's also going to require a different level of you in terms of leadership and clear communication as well. So adaptability at this point is going to be the biggest piece, which is why it's so hard for so many people to be able to step into that next phase, because they're comfortably uncomfortable at the level that they're at, because they've just now worked so hard to get to where they are right now. And that comes back down to you getting clear over what you want, where you want to go, what type of business you want to create, what's the level of profitability, and ultimately what's the life that you now want to be able to live, and how do you want to be able to do things as well? Because there's no right or wrong way. It's about understanding what's the way that works with me, how do I want to be able to take my business to the next level, and what would feel good for me. Because there's no amount of revenue, there's no amount of like record month that will make you feel a certain way. It's the excitement, the enjoyment, the customers that you're currently working with, where you're placing your effort and energy, the tasks that you're doubling down on. And yeah, you're always going to have to eat shit, and business is going to be challenging and it's hard, and there's going to be a whole host of stuff that you're going to have to do that you don't want to do. There's always going to be that. And there's going to be things that nobody else can do other than you, because you're the hero in the movie and the hero of the business. But that's why it's even more important that it's got to be built around you: fun, enjoyment, flexibility, and it being built your way, because that's going to give you the endurance, the longevity, and the ability to keep going even when you're bumping up against these challenges that are going to come along their way. If you found this podcast episode useful, I'd love for you to be able to share this with somebody else. Also, if you want more depth and you want a greater degree of understanding around the moves that you need to make, hit the link in my bio on Instagram or go to the link in the description notes below. Download the High Performance Business Success Test and allow yourself to understand what are your limiting factors. Off the back of that, you will get an abundance of action steps, downloadables, plug and plays that you can now integrate that will now help you make the next moves based upon some of what I've spoken about today. And the goal is to keep it simple. It doesn't need to be heavy. If you were to build a business the easy and enjoyable and fun way that felt good for you, what would you do? And if you're stuck with that question, flip that and think about if it was heavy, hard, challenging, and difficult, how would the company now look? Until next time, I love you all. I'll speak to you soon.